I'd like to acknowledge Australia's First Nation people as the traditional custodians of the land, and for this episode in particular, the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging.
I think Australia used to be following, what the world was doing, but now everyone's looking to us. We honestly have some of the best bars in the world, the best restaurants in the world. I think, a lot of countries are now starting to look to us to what we're doing.
This is Over a Glass. I'm Shanteh Wale.
Trish Brew is the brand ambassador for the well-known and loved Fever Tree, one of the world's premium mixer brands. Trish has extensive experience in hospitality and behind the bar, most notably as gin bar manager at Gin Palace. Hi Trish, thanks for joining me.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
It's our pleasure. Now, you recently finished judging the Australian Gin Awards. Are you all ginned out, or is that not even remotely possible to happen?
Look, it's a hard job, but someone has to do it. I really love judging gin competitions. It's so much fun. It really gets to test your knowledge and your palate at the same time. I really did enjoy that. It did take quite a lot of time. So, it's good to reset my palate, maybe with a whiskey or something else, and I'm back into it for sure.
I'm familiar with wine judging, and I've judged for Drink Easy, but I haven't ever just done a spirit judging. Is it similar in that you kind of get a lineup of blind gins, you go in, you write your notes, you have a panel, and you kind of discuss at the end kind of what you've awarded it and why?
Absolutely, and you typically have someone else with you, so you get to compare notes and talk it through, and then you might meet in the middle where one of you might really like it, one of you might not like it so much, but you always have points on why. Whether it's to your palate or not, if it's a good quality spirit and it seems to be made well and has a good flavour, then they tend to do quite well. So with gin, as you know, there's so many different flavours out there, so it is a bit of a challenge sometimes. But it's a really exciting one. So
Australian gin's gone through the roof, so I imagine there's so many different styles, like you said, and so many different botanicals you can use, especially with our Australian indigenous botanicals that you don't see in the rest of the world. Are you a big gin drinker yourself?
Huge gin drinker now. When I started, working in hospitality, I really thought I didn't like gin actually, and that actually came down to the mixer. So can't wait to tell you a bit more about my journey with that, and a little bit about my job now as the ambassador of Fever Tree. But when starting with gin, I think it was the classic style of gin, like London Dry, like your Tanquerays, your Bombays, your Gordons and things like that. That's actually my favourite style now. Really classic juniper driven, and it's really nice to see some Australian distillers pulling in some of those more interesting botanicals, but paying homage to that style.
Yeah, I've had a funny journey with gin too, and I definitely agree with you. It got to a point where I stopped enjoying gin based on the mixer and the tonic, and so I'm so keen to hear about that. But just for everybody listening, tell me a little bit about how you got your start in hospitality, how you got your way to work behind the bar. How did that all come about?
It's a bit of a funny one actually, and I never really thought growing up that I was going to work in hospitality. It was one of those things that you kind of fall into, and I actually was studying in my early years, and I thought I actually wanted to be a chef because I really loved flavour growing up, and my father always introduced my sister and I to interesting flavours, and was really adventurous in that sense. So I kind of always thought, I really love flavour. When I was a kid, I used to love being in the kitchen with my mum and cooking, and I thought, I'm going to be a chef. So we moved to Melbourne as a family from Brisbane, and Melbourne's just this culinary scene that I got to explore from the get. And I was like, this is great. I love trying all these new flavours. I'm going to be a chef. My parents actually moved out of home. I always say I moved out of home at an early age, but my parents actually moved back to Queensland. I'm like, I'm going to stay here, and I hadn't finished high school yet, so I went and did a TAFE course, and I started doing my chef apprenticeship. Then I realised that I had zero patience. But I really love flavour, and started working in a restaurant. And I was too young to serve drinks at the time, sub 18. And then by the time I got to 18, I was like, you know what, I want to be behind that bar. The bartenders look really cool, like still experimenting with flavour. And I really fell into it that way. And, you know, I worked in other career paths along the way, but I always had like a job on the side, like whether it be in a bar or in a nightclub or just something that I could fill my weekends with. And yeah, I just, you know, when you find something you love, you just stick with it. And yeah, I haven't looked back since. And actually after that, I actually, here's a fun thing. I've never applied for a job that I've had. I've always had people approach me and say, hey, you should come work here with us. Oh, you'd be great here, or what have you. And I just have always gone, yeah, okay, I'll give it a shot, and like moved on to the next thing. That's actually how I got my job at Gin Palace, where, you know, I was a whiskey drinker at the time because I thought I didn't like gin. And that was because of the tonic. And so it was kind of awkward, like working in a gin bar, trying to sell gin to people. And this was like 2010, before the gin boom really took off in Australia. So it was like selling ice to Eskimos. People were like, no, I want a whiskey or I want a vodka in Gin Palace, right? So pretty challenging time. And I thought I didn't like gin. I was a whiskey drinker. And then I remember Fever Tree coming into the country, and I tried what I like to consider my first real gin and tonic, and the penny really dropped for me. And I did a little bit of research into Fever Tree, and I was like, oh, it's good quality ingredients, you know, and then I haven't looked back, and it's become my favorite drink, and I've pursued, you know, trying to find the world's best gin and tonic ever since, I suppose. But yeah, it's just such a wide world now since the gin boom, and started in 2011. I think there was only a handful of Australian gins, and now there's like 300 different, you know, gin producing distilleries in Australia. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I can't agree more. It's exploded. And I think what I've really enjoyed seeing is also people's reactions to someone that kind of just, went in and bought their staples and always stick with the same brand, but now has maybe, you know, 3 or 4 gins in their house. And I think for a lot of Australians, you kind of would, you know, look at a bar and see the same old kind of Kahlua and Tia Maria, and then, you know, Malibu. And now these days you see all these artisan and different craft gins and whiskies, and people are happy to have multiple bottles because they're happy to try different spirits based on how they're feeling and what kind of company they have. And they've really embraced spirits in a different way.
Look, absolutely. And when it comes to gin or even just Australian-made products, you know, there really is one out there for everyone in the category. I think we're really adventurous with flavour here because Australians really love to travel. You know, I'm actually having to stop going on social media because I have no travel plans booked, but everyone's going away on these fabulous holidays. One of the best things about hospitality is you can do it all over the world, so you get influence from those countries and those other bartenders, and, you know, and distillers do the same thing, and bringing, you know, different flavours and influences back to Australia, but kind of making it our own. It's something really special that Australia is second to none. And I also think we're perfectionists in this country, you know. Like, you know, living in Melbourne, we have this huge coffee scene, you know, and now Australia is known for our coffee, you know, so everything we do, I think we really do well.
There's that McDonald's ad that's on at the moment, and they talk a little bit, and it's I watch it and think, oh, and then I'm like, oh, it's so true though, because it talks about just how particular we are about our coffee, and I'm like, you know what, we are, and we should be so really proud of that, because we have discerning palates now, and we actually care about where the beans are sourced from and if they're ethical and who's making the coffee. And I think, like, I agree with you, it's something to be really proud of. So you working at Gin Palace for over 8 years, which is incredible. And you've had some incredible accolades, like 2018, you were named Time Out Melbourne Bartender of the Year. In 2018, you're also named Australian Bar Manager of the Year. And then the world completely changed in the next few years. Looking back, what do those accolades mean to you? And was that a big change for you to start looking, well, like you said, you didn't look for a brand ambassador role, the brand ambassador role came to you. But did those kind of tumultuous years have something to do with a change of thought in terms of career path?
Well, look, so I feel like it's one of those things where, like, I never really, like, applied for a job at a gym bar. That kind of came to me, and the one thing, that I've always been passionate about is, like, if you're going to do something, do it properly or don't do it at all. And so, I really put so much love and care into, always serving everyone that came into that bar. They spent time out of their day to get there. Maybe they travelled, maybe they got a cab and it cost them $50 to get to that bar. They would come in, they would sit down, they might have to wait to get served, then they'd wait for their drink, then they'd spend a premium on a drink. So anytime anyone was there, I really felt like they were in my lounge room and I wanted to take care of them. And so I think that's what, gave me a lot of those accolades. I don't know whether I was one of the best bartenders, but the one thing that I would say about myself is that I really do appreciate people's time, and they're spending their time on you when they go to your bar. And I think that's something that, a lot of bartenders are really recognizing now that the pandemic is over and everyone understands and has learned how to make drinks in their own home. I think the espresso martini was the most Googled cocktail of the year last year. So people know how to make cocktails that you used to go to bars for. So it's so great to see in the industry people, really appreciating the time of the customer. And yeah, I mean, when I got my job, we went into a pandemic shortly after. It was still a new world for me, this corporate side, I suppose you'd say, of the liquor industry. But, I still appreciated people's time, and we were pivoting to doing, virtual sessions online. And some sessions we had up to 500 people on there because everyone just wanted to have a good time and still connect with each other and log on with their friends. And, now I know how to use things like Zoom. So it was a really good learning curve for me as well, coming from someone who used to just do everything over a bar. But, it's taught myself and certainly the world that you can still connect, you can still have a good time, and you can still have a bloody good drink. And you can work it out together. So
I think, yeah, it's really true, isn't it? With the amount of Zooms that we did do over that time, I have to say, I think it's so smart of Fever-Tree to be able to utilize you, because trying to break through that fourth wall to reach a lot of people, you really need lots of charisma, and you need somebody that's passionate to really kind of break through and be able to do justice to the product that you're talking about. So I think that they've made such a smart decision in you, and congratulations on the role. So tell me about Fever-Tree. I know you are about to launch the brand new Distillers Cola, but tell me about what you fell in love with Fever-Tree, the products.
Well, going back to that story about how I thought I didn't like gin because, it was cheap and poor quality mixes, especially tonic. I think my first gin and tonic was on a post-mix gun, and I was hating on gin when it was the mixer the whole time. So Fever-Tree, when I tasted it, I remember this young lady who worked for the distributor, South Trade International at the time. They just launched Fever-Tree Indian Tonic in Australia, and she comes into the bar and she's to the gin bar, right? It's crazy, trying to sell me tonic. And I was like, I don't want to try that. Tonic's gross kind of thing. And I remember reluctantly tasting Fever-Tree, and I was like, wow, tonic can be good. And it was literally the flavour. So the first thing that I fell in love with Fever-Tree was the taste. And the taste is the most important thing. And like I always say, whether you like it or you don't, you're right because you're you. But I haven't come across anyone who hasn't found a Fever-Tree flavour they don't like. It's actually remarkable. And then, being a bartender who, loves to educate themselves on different spirits, I was like, I'm going to deep dive into tonic. And yeah, it was the quality of ingredients and, ethically sourced ingredients that you touched on before is really important. The co-founders, Tim and Charles, work directly with farmers across the globe to get the best quality ingredients. But also, it's fair trade. So that's something that, touching on that coffee thing again, that's something that you see a lot when you go to, your local cafe, where it's, fair trade, organic, etc. These are buzzwords that you hear. And it's nice to know that there is a company who's making a tonic water who actually applies those things, paying farmers appropriately, to a mixer. That's pretty crazy. So when I found that out, I was even more in awe, and I couldn't wait to taste more of the range, but we only really got the Indian first up. Now, as the gin category and the mixer category, or spirit category has evolved, so do the mixers, to kind of keep up, because the ethos of Fever Tree is that if 3/4 of your drink is the mixer, mix it the best. And it absolutely is the best. So now I feel like there is one to kind of, capture all of those different spirits, and the Distiller's Cola is the most exciting one, which is coming out now. Just to give you a little bit of a background of why cola, because I know there's a lot of people out there that always go, cola? Why are you bringing out a cola for? Well, most spirits that are consumed on the planet are actually dark spirits. Most of those dark spirits are whiskey. Most of those mixed whiskeys are actually with cola. And so it's kind of if we're going to have the best tonic, the best sodas, the best ginger range, well, we should probably do a cola, right? And so the Distiller's Cola came out to really mesh well with those barrel-aged spirits. We want to harmonise because we want to be a mixer at the end of the day where we're going to complement those flavours. And so when you look at Coca-Cola, which is a really great soft drink, for the home, kids love it. They've got low sugar variants, and that's really great. That company actually started as a medicine company in the 1800s. So it wasn't even designed to be a soft drink, let alone something to mix with spirits. And so though it is a great soft drink, we thought we can do something to really amplify these spirits. And the Distiller's Cola uses 11 ingredients. Cola nut, we get from the Caribbean. We also use pimento, which is this beautiful 5-spice flavor. We have Mexican Tahitian limes and Sicilian lemon, and not to mention the Madagascan vanilla as well. So there's just a myriad of flavor that's going to work with the influence that you get from oak and aging spirits. And I tell you what, I've got to send you something because this is just absolutely divine.
I think that cola is such an interesting one, and I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that kind of marketing brainstorming meeting, because I think approaching the consumer group of rum and coke or whiskey and coke drinkers as opposed to gin and tonic drinkers must have been so fascinating, and kind of looking at the research and then going, okay, how do we do this? But when you think about all the different flavors that go into a cola, it's a real amalgamation of pretty amazing spices and elements of sweetness, but then has a bitter element. It really is a recipe for success, I think. So I'm so curious about it. And I think that's, like you said, I know so many people that will spend really hefty money on different spiced rums and always drink it with Coke. I can imagine that this is going to be a great market for them that are going, you know what, we've tried all the different types of rum now. Let's try and with the different types of cola on the market too.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. Are you after my job?
No way. I would have no clue what I'm doing. I think you're doing an amazing job. But in terms of the other elements that you have as well, because you do have some sodas as well, I remember the day that Fever Tree hit the market. And it was the first other tonic on the market ever, and I couldn't believe it because I stopped drinking gin because of the sugar content of tonics. And for a long time I wanted to create a product that was called Gin and Sonic, which was mostly soda with a touch of tonic. And I was like, it's going to be genius, because I just thought the sugar was so hefty and just, they would just yuck, the tonics. And I never forget the first time I tried Fever Tree, and I thought, oh my God, this is a revolution. And it was. So in terms of the other products, what are the ones that you kind of use on a day-to-day basis?
Look, I love that lower sugar thing. There is definitely a trend towards, drinking better and healthier and more health conscious consumers. So I really am in love with our soda range at the moment, even though I still love the Fever Tree tonics, and we have some delicious variants in the low sugar range in that category. Our sodas are just incredible. Like, you really get the full flavour of the botanicals. They're unapologetic and they are so easily mixed. So I would suggest one of our soda range. I love a Paloma, because tequila is actually going through the roof at the moment. Everyone's so excited about that. So we have this pink grapefruit soda, which is just unlike anything else. We get our grapefruits from Florida. They have this incredible rosy undertone to them, which I just find so adult and so divine. Low sugar, so good on the lips and the hips, I like to say. Only 30 calories per bottle, and it's just that, and a white tequila or even a gin is great. Served in a highball glass, maybe a salt rim if you want to make it pop. Just delish. Yeah,
great idea. I've been drinking a lot of non-alcoholic drinks of late, and it's so nice to have something. I mean, I have to say, normally the first thing out of my mouth is, oh, this screams for a bit of gin. This would be awesome. And then I'm like, no, stuff it. But I know that there's a lime and yuzu soda. I haven't tried that yet, but yuzu is one of my favorite flavors as well. So there's so many things, so many exciting things happening for you guys. And I think, like you said, the Distiller's Cola, I can't wait to see how it goes. But do you ever miss slinging drinks across a bar these days?
Look, I really do. It's something that I enjoy. That it's mainly the face-to-face interacting with the customer, to be honest with you. I'm really lucky that, with Fever Tree, we do so many great events with lots of different distillers across the country. So I am still engaging with, different spirits that I love and consumers. It's not as frequent as I would like, but it's actually really nice to be on this side of the bar for a change, where I can just go in and go to some of my favorite bars. And, I actually always, this is my thing, okay, for when we go out together sometime, I always go to a bar. Most of them have Fever Tree because bartenders understand flavour. So I'll sit at the bar and I'll order a gin and tonic while I'm deciding what I'm going to actually order. And I really do enjoy that. It's really nice being on this side of the bar for a change, for sure.
I completely agree with you. We're on the same page. I always say to people, they're like, how do you navigate a wine list? What are the first thing you do when you sit down? I'm like, get a drink, man. Get a drink. You need a drink. You need to sit back, relax, cheers, look at the person you're actually sitting with or the bartender, take it all in and have a drink first, and then you can start thinking about what you're eating and what you're drinking later on. But you need that first something, something to sip on.
Absolutely. And when you're with someone else at a bar, phone down, phone in bag, phone away, put your phone away, take your happy snap, and then you can upload it to the gram later, but phones away, people.
So true. It's amazing how much I think, you can always get the photo later, or I just think, having a cheer. I want to bring back that cheers and look at the person that you're sitting with, cheers them in the eyes and have that moment just together, because we've had 3 years of not being able to do it, so it's so important now that we're present for 5 seconds,
Absolutely.
So what do you love most about your role now with Fever Tree?
What's not to love, there's just such a well, pardon the pun, but thirst at the moment for great quality mixes. And I feel like I'm just invited to all the cool parties now, and bartenders want to see me. They're like, come in, let's make some highballs together, and that can be from any bar. Like, I really cut my teeth in gin, but it's so nice being able to go to a whiskey bar or a rum bar. And I'm still learning all the time, because when you sit down with one of those bartenders, you really get to understand their world and how they feel, and they love to chat, nerdy stuff, which I really enjoy. It's actually really good being able to even integrate into the wine world, you know, or beer world. You know, people always like, you know, when beer drinkers aren't drinking beer, they're drinking like a nice, refreshing, long mixed drink. And you're still being able to hang out with, you know, kind of all walks of and all palates within the industry, which is so nice. And we're forever doing events and festivals. We've done a couple of beautiful gin and tonic festivals, which are really fun. And, you know, there's just always something happening, but it's really rare that I need to, like, you know, chase down an event or a lead. It's like people are constantly calling me, and I really, really love that. So, yeah, it's just a brilliant job and a brilliant brand to work for, because it's just limitless.
I can imagine that, you know, like you said, festivals, and I think a lot of, like you said, the corporate world, being on the cold face of customers and talking to people can be quite scary. But when we're in hospitality, it's what we thrive on. So festivals and just slinging drinks and talking to whoever comes up, you know, is kind of, you know, where our moneymaker is. And I agree. I think that I love events, and the excuse to get out and chat to people is just, you know, I feel where I thrive. And so it's so nice that that is still a part of your world. I wanted to ask though, do you get an opportunity to talk to other ambassadors? Because I imagine that it must be fascinating to hear the drinking culture and style of other countries, and kind of where Fever Tree works in other countries, and kind of compare that to Australia.
Absolutely, yeah. So I stay really heavily connected to some of the other Fever Tree ambassadors across the world, and it's just so wonderful. Like, I think Australia used to be following, you know, what the world was doing, but now everyone's looking to us. We honestly have some of the best bars in the world, the best restaurants in the world. I think, you know, a lot of countries are now starting to look to us to what we're doing. So I definitely get more phone calls about what people should be doing than the other way around, which was really unexpected, to be honest. And I think most of my dear friends are actually ambassadors in spirit. So I'm always talking to ambassadors and always collaborating and always seeing what's new, what's hot, what's happening. And do you know what's always new, hot and happening? Fever Tree mixes. I can't believe how many of them like just want to work with us, and it took me a long time to figure out why. I was like, oh, is it because we're friends? But it's actually because, no, we make their spirits taste better, and, you know, two heads are always better than one. So it's just, yeah, it's a really great place to be. Honestly, I couldn't have picked a better position to be in.
Well, and they picked you. I can't believe you've never applied for a job. I don't, you know, that's pretty awesome. I can't say that interviews and the process of job hunting and going through that is the most pleasurable experience. So I think that says so much about you. Trish, if you could only drink 3 beverages for the rest of your life, what would they be and why?
Well, funnily enough now, a gin and tonic. Gin and tonic is, you know, there's so many different flavour combinations, so I feel like it might be cheating now. Really love a good gin and tonic, you know, a classic juniper forward style of gin, and our Indian tonic. It's just sharp, punchy, delicious. I'd probably say a martini as well, staying on the gin train. Martinis you cannot hide behind. So as long as it's nice and cold, use good quality ingredients, fresh vermouth. I know people love to leave their vermouth on the shelf for like 6 years and then wonder why their martini's terrible. Guys, after 6 weeks in the fridge, that needs to go in the bin or down the sink. But a good martini, gin forward, dry, twist, delicious. And last but not least, probably my favourite cocktail is the margarita, and there's also so many variants you can have on that. You talked about our lime and yuzu soda before, so I like to make a skinny gal margarita where I use a white tequila, I do a salt rim of a tall glass, lots of good quality ice, and I top it off with the lime and yuzu soda, and it's just absolutely delicious. But I'd settle for any delicious margarita, to be honest.
Oh, I'm so with you there. It's such a good drink, isn't it? But they just disappear so fast.
I know, it evaporates. What's with that?
I'm like, I'm sure I had somebody stealing my drink, but I'm alone. What's happening? Trish, it's been so lovely to hear from you and hear more about Fever Tree. I mean, they certainly are popping up absolutely everywhere, which, you know, like I said, it has a lot to do with the taste, but I also think, you know, their price point is really smart as well. It makes it accessible to be able to list the product, and it works for the venue as well, which is a really, you know, maybe not a romantic idea, but actually really important in these days. So I think they're doing a great job, and it's been really nice to hear more about you. I can't wait to pick your brains a little bit more about gin, and but hopefully over a double sometime, which I'm craving. It's been a long year without any gin in my life, so
we need to fix that, absolutely. And you know, we always say that if 3/4 of the drink is a mixer, mix it the best, and you are the best. So thank you so much for mixing with me today. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure, and like I said, I hope our paths cross. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Cheers to you.
Thanks a lot.
This is Over a Glass. I'm Shanteh Wale. Stay tuned for more stories from the world of wine and drinks. Listen in every Thursday on your podcast app. Follow us on Instagram at overaglasspod and contact us at overaglass@deepintheweeds.com.au.